What's up, fellow fantasy loving friends? Josh here with RSMP Tabletop, and I'm beyond excited because today I have a few updates, both with my Star Wars ShatterPoint and with The Office. So if you got a chance to watch our last playthrough video that we did with Star Wars ShatterPoint, we did that down at the Battle Standard in East Windsor, Connecticut. And I just want to take a second to thank Jared, the owner, from the bottom of my heart, because he allows us to go into the store early before it opens, set up, move anything around however we want, and film basically whatever we want. I also want to give a big shout out to Eric and Joey. Eric's the manager of the store. He shows up hours before his shift, takes the time to set up, goes through the stress of filming and all that stuff, and then works a full day after that. Joey had painted a bunch of stuff, gets up early, shows up, helps set up, so that's kind of the situation there. But that brings me on to the next point. It's very difficult because I'm working in kind of a tight time window and I have multiple cameras and lighting and audio that I'm trying to lug around. And honestly, I'm just one guy. So I wanted to update The Office because I built a softbox above the table because it really is going to be the best way to get the best lighting for playing. Now, if I try to play any like card games like Magic or anything that's sleeved, I'm probably going to get a lot of glare. But for miniatures, it really was the best way to go. So I wanted to take the time to build a softbox, and now I have a dedicated mounted camera above head. What I'm also going to do is I'll have multiple cameras set up and mounted that are going to stay kind of in the same spot so I can start to get more of a style and a flow for the videos. What this is going to allow me to do, have people come into here, play the games, do a lot more stuff like that right here, but the quality, the production, it's always going to be there and it's going to be more consistent. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do there. So with that out of the way, in the future, please leave comments to what you want to see. If you don't like a camera angle, if there's something that you want to see that we can improve on, I want to make the best content that I can for you guys, and I want to form a great community, and I can only do that with some feedback. So I'm going to have some people in to do some play testing and see what we can make happen, but very soon, I promise you, the quality of this channel is going to increase tenfold. Back to Star Wars ShatterPoint. In a previous video, Eric helped us paint some of the battle droids, and I've been painting for about a year now, and I've just used a lot of the speed paints, and it's kind of 2 coats of speed paint and move on to the next thing. I have used a few different like silvers and golds and some other colors that, you know, you kind of had to do some different things. I started watering down and mixing paints a little bit. I bought a nun oil to try to use. I went through a bunch of different brushes, and I even tried an airbrush. I finally feel like I'm starting to fall into what painting is supposed to be like and what it's supposed to feel like for the miniatures. When Eric helped me paint the battle droids, I was kind of apprehensive because I felt like I was using the speed paints for a little bit, but I didn't love the way it was going on. When I started using some other paints that I was able to water down and you put 1 coat on, it was giving me more of a better finish, and at the time I thought that was better. What Eric showed me is if you take a little bit of time, you do some nun oil, you do some dry brushing in the way it's supposed to be done in the proper steps, and then you use the speed paint, it really does help layer and just create so much more depth to your model. So the first thing that I painted after Eric had left, though, was Lord Maul. Lord Maul presented a little bit of a challenge with the pants, and I also learned this is why you don't use too much heat on a hairdryer if you're trying to be a little bit more fast and effective. I know Eric had mentioned that he was surprised that I did like my batch painting style where I'd sit down and I'd do all 1 color at the same time. He had mentioned that he likes to finish a model because it lets his brain have more dopamine and he feels better about the process. So when I painted Lord Maul, I wanted to do that where I just painted him and focused on him during the session. It took me a little bit longer than I feel like it normally would to batch paint because you have to wait for certain things to dry, and because of that, I decided to use a hairdryer because I saw Eric do this. Now, this was the first time I got to understand why you don't use heat in a hairdryer when you're trying to dry miniatures, because it makes the paint crack and it just literally looks awful. It does not dry right at all. But you live and you learn. The hardest thing I think about painting Lord Maul was just trying to get some of the details in his face. Again, I shake really bad. The block that Eric had given me certainly helps out a lot, but when you're still trying to do the very, very fine details and get in there, it can be a little bit more difficult. The first color that I used on the pants didn't actually end up being the right color. I kept trying to do layer after layer. Then I tried to use some nun oil to see if I can get it to be a little darker, and it just wasn't quite working out. So I tried to do something drastic and I just lightened them up quite a bit. And then I ended up kind of repainting them with that same color, 2 more coats, didn't love it. And then I actually just changed and I went to a completely different color. And I'm actually fairly happy with the way that this result turns out. So after I finished painting Maul, I went back to my batch painting style with the Gar Saxon and the Mandalorians here. I did these guys together, and to be perfectly honest, I was really shocked because I started out by just using the red speed paint to kind of do the highlights, then I went over with the black, and after the first coat, I honestly thought that they looked really, really good. I did use the gunmetal color that I enjoy over the guns and some of the pieces like that, but really this is like 2 or 3 colors. Then I moved on to do a dry brush, and when I did the dry brush, I purposely added a little bit more white than I should have onto it because I was using black to go over it, so I really wanted it to shine through. After I just did the 2 coats of the speed paint, I can't be happier with how these look. I know I missed a piece in the arm for Gar. I'll go back and I'll fix that. Kalani was basically the easiest one to do. Basically with this one, I just went in, I did black in the recess areas, and then I went over it with kind of 1 coat of speed paint, and then I did 1 shade of Nun Oil, and then I added a little bit of that gunmetal color that I like to the gun here, and pretty much called it a day. Asajj. Now this was a model that I definitely learned a little bit on. Like Lord Maul, I learned the hairdryer thing, why you don't want to use too much heat on the hairdryer, or actually any heat at all, and you want to use cool because you'll dry, you'll crack, and it'll look awful. With Asajj, what I learned is too much Nun Oil is absolutely a thing. I don't know why I had it in my mind, especially for something like this, I could just lather it on and it dries and it kind of clumps and it gets sticky. What I think I'm starting to learn about Nun Oil is that I do like it. I think it has its place, but you kind of have to go over it again. It's not something that I like to be my final finish. If I'm using like a white or something I want to look weathered, it's certainly good to put it on, but I'm not gonna be in the habit of just slopping it all over my models all the time. However, for Kalani, it just really seemed to work and it seemed to be the right thing to do. So I think that there is a time and a place for it, but I don't think it's for every model all the time. Now I haven't finished the train yet. I do have it primed. I'm gonna work on that. Basically what I'm gonna do over the next few days is I'm gonna work on some different camera angles, some gameplay looking stuff. I do have 2 wireless lav mics that we're gonna start using for the people doing the gameplay, plus the overhead. I will have a dice camera specifically set up as well. Actually, in the Star Wars ShatterPoint video, mind you, I'm one guy trying to run 4 cameras, plus I had a Fuji handheld point and shoot, so when they went to roll the dice, I'd pick it up off the table really quick, turn it on, hold it up as high as I could, and try to film the dice roll. So there's definitely a few things in that video that I know I can improve on, but again, I want to build a community, so don't be afraid to leave something in the comments. If you want longer playthrough videos that have more of the thought process and that are more thought out like that, let me know. If you want me to cut it down and shorten some of the stuff, let me know. So that's gonna wrap it up for today's video, guys, but please subscribe, comment, like, and share, because I promise you, in the future, I'm gonna bring more high-end content. We're gonna be bringing better painting, better playthroughs. The office is gonna keep improving. We're gonna get more paint up, we're gonna get more models, we're gonna get more background set up, and it's gonna be great. Until next time, stay safe.
The truth was mine to bear. I let the police for sure. I wouldn't stomach the lies, the half-truths anymore. Took up work as a ranch hand out in a remote stretch of the reservation.